Hello everyone, Jester Bell is back after a few weeks of absence. I had some work stuff to take care of, and now I'm glad to be back doing a video. But this video is one that I've kind of been putting off because it's a very sensitive topic for me. I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the Birds of Prey movie that's coming out shortly this February. The trailer was out 3 weeks ago. I didn't want to talk about it for a couple of reasons, which I might mention here, but I had multiple people saying you should talk about this trailer. We really want to hear your thoughts. So here's a video on what I think about the movie and what I think about the trailer and the entire concept of what the movie is doing. So, just to clarify if I haven't already, I'm a big fan of the Paul Dini Harley Quinn. She kind of means a lot to me. If anything, just because she's what got me into Batman, what got me into DC, and that's really interesting to think about because I'm reading so much Batman now, and I'm such a big Batman fan now. But I'm a really big fan of her as she was in the animated series and as she was in the Arkham games, and as she just used to be as a character for 20 years. She used to be a very tragicomedic character where she could be a lot of fun, but she could be really miserable because of her vulnerabilities, letting herself be obsessed with the wrong people. And I really do not, and I've never been a fan of the new kind of girl power direction they have taken the character in recent days, which I think is really, it has nothing to do with the character. It seems like they're just trying to pander to people, whether it's feminists, certain feminists. I would consider myself a feminist, but a traditional feminist. Certain modern day feminists and activists and people have kind of come against and saying, well, Harley is so popular, she needs to be about girl power. But also, DC is really admittedly pandering to the mainstream because it's just so much easier to sell merchandise with Harley, and that's really what matters to them the most. If you just say, oh, well, she's a rebel girl, or she's a crazy girl, or she's about girl power, or something lighthearted rather than something dark. But I think that the character has been completely stripped away of anything that ever made her who she was or made her interesting. I think even her personality, which was provided by Arlene Sorkin in the animated series, is gone. And it's just gone to the point in comics because I've been reading comics with the character again to just keep up and see what's been happening. She really doesn't have a character anymore because every comic I pick up, I think I've said this before, she's a different character. It's like the writer will just project on whatever they want or whatever they think crazy is and then just leave it at that. It's like people say, I don't like the original Harley. I like modern Harley. I'm thinking, what do you mean? What even is she? So all that being said, I see this Birds of Prey movie as being another example of that, how Harley is just now whatever the creator, whatever certain producer or writer gets a hold of her, whatever they want her to be. And it's taking her on as another, using her as a girl power character again. And it's putting her with the Birds of Prey, who she has never been a part of, a team she's never been a part of before, and should not have any association with, because she should be the exact opposite of what the Birds of Prey are all about. And she's just kind of taking over their team now. And so I think, first of all, when you have Harley just kind of acting wacky, whatever wacky means to the producer or the executive involved, or just acting completely in control all the time and completely powerful, I think that makes her a really boring character and a really obnoxious character, especially when you've got her front and center and she's not, someone's sidekick. Like, if she's not with Joker, why not have her with Poison Ivy, because they can play off of each other so well. In Gotham City Sirens, the comic series, she worked really well because she wasn't front and center. She was comic relief. She was playing off of other characters. But here it's completely her front and center. Excuse me. So that's one thing there. I see her, before we get to the second part, which is very important, I see her there in this movie, just further being deconstructed from everything she was and everything that made her endearing. And I see Margot Robbie, who I really did like her performance in Suicide Squad. I think she really elevated what poor material she was given to have some pathos in her character, even though that the final edit didn't show that. But there were moments where I felt like some empathy for her, even though the writing wasn't there. I think she's just Margot Robbie has this quirky personality she does in a lot of her movies, the kind of variations of. She did kind of more innocent version of it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that came out this year. She did a very raunchy, edgy version of it in I, Tonya, which is a very good movie. I'm seeing her, that quirky personality almost makes her perfect for Harley, but here she's kind of just doing an edgy version of it. She's not really embodying any of the innocence or any of the traits that make up Harley like she was in Suicide Squad. I think she's just just being her quirky personality with a little edge, because Harley's going to be kind of angry in this movie after going through a breakup and trying to be different. And trying to be a superhero, apparently, from the premise of the movie. Excuse me, I'm coming over a cold. And again, I don't see any reason for Harley to be a superhero other than, well, how are we going to keep her in the comic book realm unless we keep her a superhero? Like, I think if Harley finally got over Joker, she would try to get away from the craziness of all that and try to become a normal person again. Which, by the way, I have a really big pet peeve. Why would Harley be calling herself Harley Quinn if she wants nothing to do with the Joker and if she's abandoning his motif? That makes no sense. But getting on to the second part of what really makes me dislike this movie, because there's a lot of parts to break down, it's the birds of prey, and that they're not supposed to be used like this. Now, for those of you who don't know the behind-the-scenes story, this movie was personally pitched and is being produced by Margot Robbie herself. She pitched it back in 2016, and so for a while people excused her because they said, oh, well, maybe she's chosen the Birds of Prey to team up with Harley because she wants to push lesser-known female characters. For a while, I gave her the benefit of the doubt, probably just because I like her as an actress and other things. And I said, okay, maybe she is working to push lesser-known characters. But the more I see of this movie, the more it seems like she knew, Harley needs to have a supporting cast. She said as much in interviews. And she just took some characters she thought most people wouldn't know and threw them in there just so Harley would have someone and so she wouldn't be overshadowed. She even cast either, lesser caliber or unknown actresses. I've never heard of Journey Smollett-Bell in my life before this movie. Mary Elizabeth Winstead has gotten work before, but she's still not high caliber. She's still not, oh, I'm really excited to see this movie because Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in this movie. And I just see this, and I'm just saying that, she clearly just threw in these characters to give Harley a supporting cast, make sure it was still all about Harley. But, with those characters, she doesn't seem, even though she keeps saying, and she keeps having other people say she's a huge comic book fan, I don't see any love for these characters, particularly Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain, in the comics, is supposed to be this almost mute assassin who can rival Batman in terms of her martial arts skills. And in this trailer, and what we've heard of descriptions of the plot, she's just basically a female short round. She's Harley's little streetwise sidekick, and according to people who saw screen tests, she doesn't even fight in the movie. And Black Canary is very loosely based off of a version of the comics of New 52 where she was a singer. And the rumor is Black Canary is going to go through kind of an arc in this movie where she decides to become a superhero, but Harley might influence her with that. And I don't know if that's confirmed, but I don't really like that Harley somehow influences Black Canary to become a superhero. And that's, again, not confirmed, but that would be very disappointing if they did that. Huntress, I'm a big fan of Huntress. I really don't like the way she looks. I think she has the worst superhero costume I've ever seen. I saw a close-up of it. I don't want to be mean. It looks like a trash bag with a 90s belt buckle around it when it comes to the pants. I'm sorry. It looks really bad. Renee Montoya is also in this movie. I like her character in the comics. Here, I'm hearing she doesn't have much of a part in the film, and she hasn't really been seen much. I just feel like, I almost feel like she's there just to say, oh, we have a Latina and a lesbian in our movie. I hope I'm wrong on that. Maybe she will have a bigger part, but She's not even going to be the Question, which is what she briefly was a superhero in the comics, or at least a detective superhero as the Question. I would not be a bit surprised if she's put in there just to check off a box. Regardless of all that, I am a huge superhero movie fan. They are my favorite movies of all time to watch. But this really does not feel like a superhero movie at all. It feels like just a kind of a girls' comedy, like you might see Rough Night or Girls' Night Out or Girls' Trip, of various, kind of raunchy girl comedies. This is going to be an R-rated movie. Raunchy girl comedies that kind of exist just to say, oh well, boys have these movies out there, why can't women? That's kind of how it makes me feel on one level. On another level, it makes me feel like we're kind of going back to the Suicide Squad franchise, really, with the aesthetic, which I don't want to do right now, and I don't know a lot of people who do want to do that right now after Joker. After the Joker movie, it feels like we finally pushed away from the bad of the DCEU. We finally pushed away from the Suicide Squad aesthetic. Finally pushed away from that trash. And now right after that movie, it's like, oh no, we're going to go back to that continuity, back to that aesthetic. And I don't know a lot of people who want to do that, and I think that's part of the reason why this trailer and this movie hasn't really caught fire after the Joker movie has become the greatest, most high-selling R-rated movie of all time. The people, a lot of people I know who have seen Joker are saying that this movie kind of looks like corporate trash. I mean, it's the exact opposite of what they wanted to see. Joker was going to be a serious adult movie that was going to try to be somewhat deep, and this just looks like it's going to be shallow, and it's just relying on mainstream name recognition. And I feel that this movie, it doesn't even feel like this is the result of people liked Harley and Suicide Squad, so they're going to come see this movie. It just feels like Margot Robbie because again, she has pitched this movie, she's producing, according to behind the scenes, and even confirmed by the crew, she has her hands kind of in everything. She's, Kathy Yan is apparently more of a yes woman to what Margot Robbie wants. And I don't really want the movie to be successful. I'm not planning on going to go see it because I know it's going to just make me miserable. I don't like what Harley's become. I don't like using the Birds of Prey in this way. I think that all the characters, Cassandra Cain, Renee Montoya, Black Canary Huntress, I think they can be used. I think they just have so much potential to stand on their own in their own movie. And I just don't like to see them being kind of poached just so Margot Robbie can have someone who's backing her up without taking her spotlight. In terms of the way people keep saying that this movie is going to be super popular no matter whatever anyone says, because it's gotten mostly negative returns. I think there's a certain group of people who do like this kind of movie and who I think will go see it. But there's also just so much negativity and or if not negativity, then kind of lukewarm feeling about the movie, because it just doesn't feel like a regular comic book movie at all. The characters, the comic book fans, really, I've never seen them hate on any movie like this. They really don't like what's happening with the Birds of Prey, or continue on with this direction for Harley. And then you have Harley being very different in this movie from Suicide Squad. In that movie, she was sold as completely the crazy sexual character, and I didn't really like that part of it, but I have to acknowledge that that's what not only boys, but tons and tons of girls liked about her. But in this movie, she's more of a wacky tomboy, and people I know who really liked Harley's aesthetic and the way she acted in Suicide Squad are kind of calling her, they say she looks horrible in this movie. That is my friends who know what's coming out, because tons of people still don't even know this movie exists. And the ones that do are kind of confused, because they're like, well, it's called Birds of Prey, and if you don't know what is that, because that's only something comic book fans know of, but it looks like a Harley movie, but she's acting differently. So, we will see how this movie does. I'd kind of just be very grateful if it was not successful, because that would mean the direction for the characters would continue, and I would like Harley to someday be able to go back to her old self, who has a little more depth to her and a little more nuance to her, and I would like the Birds of Prey to be able to be used as they're supposed to be, as an actual girl power team that's actually that's sincere. That's what they're supposed to be. And I just don't think it's fair for Margot Robbie to do all this for her own ego, because at this point, she's had almost nothing but success in her career in Hollywood. So I just don't think it's fair for her to take something that other people care about and change it for herself. Because, I mean, even when it comes to the changes she's made to Harley, she did not like reading about the flawed aspects of Harley in the comics. She said that as far back as Suicide Squad. She, not using these words, she did not like that Harley was duped by the Joker. She didn't like that she always goes back to him. So again, I see this as another example of how she's kind of doing what she wants and how WB has let her do what she wants versus maybe what people want. I mean, maybe WB was influenced by some people who have been saying Harley needs to be like this. But again, it just seemed no one asked for a Birds of Prey movie with Harley. It just seems like they're just serving what Margot Robbie wants. And it could backfire, and I think it should, because I just don't think it's fair for someone to keep thinking that they can do whatever they want and get amazing profit, amazing love for it, and never make a mistake and never fail. And that's kind of my thoughts, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it's going to affect the DCU if this movie is successful or if it fails. One thing I will say, the people keep saying, and people who love the movie or they hate the movie keep saying this, is that the movie is automatically going to be successful no matter what's in it, because anything with Harley sells. And I've seen time and time again for the last 4 years that is not true. That's what they said for the Batman and Harley Quinn movie that came out, which is by Bruce Timm, that everyone hated, and that is still the lowest grossing or money-making direct-to-video DC animated movie ever made. It was their biggest failure. That's what they keep saying about Harley's solo comics, which continue to do rather poorly in terms of sales. That's what they said about many miniseries and comics which came out, which bombed. I think Harley can sell well. Harleen was very successful. There are still some merchandise that does really well, which I notice oftentimes has to do with when she was a villain, when she was actually herself. But again, I'm not seeing, it's been 4 years since Suicide Squad, I'm not seeing as much mainstream love for the character anymore. I know a lot of my friends who liked her in Suicide Squad just don't really care anymore. I don't think it's as simple as you can slap Harley on anything and it'll sell. Even the Birds of Prey trailer, they say that anything with Harley Quinn should be blowing up. Well, this trailer didn't blow up. It got decent views for a trailer, 17 to 18 million by now. But that's actually the second lowest I've seen for a superhero movie. Even Shazam got far more views than that. And that doesn't really necessarily mean the movie's going to be a success or failure. It's just saying, okay, you're saying anything with Harley should be blowing up, and you see it's not. So, and I should say my last thoughts on the movie in terms of how the last thing that it has against it and why I think that it's going to be awful, something I don't like, and something that people won't like, is the behind-the-scenes plot. The original plot for the movie, for people who do not know, was going to be that a Cassandra Cain finds a diamond and swallows it to steal it, and it belongs to Black Mask. And Black Mask chases her to cut it out of her to get the diamond back. And all the characters in the movies think that he must really want the diamond, or maybe it has something important to him. And when he gets the diamond and opens up in the end, it reveals it has pictures of his genitals in it. And that was the original plot of the movie. And WB execs apparently really did not like the original cut of the film. And then that information leaked out online, and anyone who saw it was very, very negative for good reason. And so now they apparently have been recutting the movie behind the scenes to cut that out and to try to make it a bit more palatable, I guess, which is why the movie waited a month to start its marketing. Trailers are usually released 4 to 6 months out for a movie, and this was released officially 4 months out because they were re-editing it, and they only did a small teaser with it. And so it just sounds like there's kind of a mess going on behind the scenes, and with that, and it really reminds me of Suicide Squad in a way. It's a perfect sequel to Suicide Squad. Just kind of a mess behind the scenes and messing up characters. So that's what I have to say about that. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to review. I want to do a review of the actual Birds of Prey comic, which I just got in trade, and I'll do more reviews of Harley comics that I think might be worth your time. And I'll be back to talk more about this. And if you want me to talk more about DC movies, Marvel movies, I'll be back here if you will only subscribe and hopefully give me a like and follow me on Twitter. That's at Teresa Campagna. Link is in the description. And thanks for watching my long video. And hope to see you again later.